12-string guitar and cabled it right about here, and then just extended it past. The company Vox used to build them for a long time, but they're really hard to get a hold of. And then another company called in the 90s called Hammertone kind of made a reproduction, and those were terrible too. But this guy called T.O. Guitars, Terry something Osley, I forget his middle name, he builds these in Indiana, and I just got it recently. It's just a phenomenal instrument. And they're just built, like, because the old Vox ones aren't built that well, and they're really expensive because they're like a vintage instrument. And this is by far a better instrument. I've always wanted one since I was a kid, and I found this guy, and he builds them for some of my favorite musicians, and I didn't know he was still in business, so I saw him, and he's like late 60s, early 70s, so I was like, I want to get one of these from this guy before he like stops doing it. But it's like, it's a really like ethereal. Up and you're like, dang, it's like a little boat anchor, but it's like, because the whole thing just wants to fold in on itself because there's so much tension on that little neck, No, it's definitely an exercise in managing tension. And like when you play it, it plays nice, but it doesn't have like, there's not really any give to it. It's just like real, like rigid, but it has to be, or else it's just its own unique little, it'll go. So all the woods are incredibly like.
Okay, please stand as you are able to share in the song that Ryan's going to be playing for us, this little light of mine.
All right, so I got a message from Penni this morning about how we don't know which lyrics we're doing for this. So I'm going to be looking at the screen. If I have an impulse to sing something different that's wrong, this little light of mine, I'm gonna let it shine. This little light of mine, I'm gonna let it shine. This little light of mine, I'm gonna let it shine. Let it shine, let it shine, let it shine. So what's the next one? That's not the one I know, but out there in the dark, I'm gonna let it shine. Out there in the dark, I'm gonna let it shine. Out there in the dark, I'm gonna let it shine. Let it shine, let it shine, let it shine. This little light of mine, I'm gonna let it shine. This little light of mine, I'm gonna let it shine. This little light of mine, I'm gonna let it shine. Let it shine, let it shine, let it shine. Is there one more? Let's see what we got. Everywhere I go, I'm gonna let it shine. I said everywhere I go, I'm gonna let it shine. Everywhere I go, I'm gonna let it shine. Let it shine, let it shine, let it shine. Is there more? Yeah. This little light of mine, I'm gonna let it shine. This little light of mine, I'm gonna let it shine. This little light of mine, I'm gonna let it shine. Let it shine, let it shine, let it shine. Ain't nobody gonna blow it out. Ain't nobody gonna blow it out. I'm gonna let it shine. Ain't nobody gonna blow it out. I'm gonna let it shine. Ain't nobody gonna blow it out. I'm gonna let it shine. Let it shine, let it shine, let it shine. One more time. Let it shine, let it shine, let it shine.
Please feel free to greet each other at this moment. That was a version I've never heard.
Yeah, the lyrics, I've never seen those either. I gotta be in Gallup, New Mexico. Why? Yeah, Gallup's 2.5 hours away. So I'll play that night in Gallup, and I'll come back for. Why are you guys planning to do your rehearsal then? If you, I don't have to leave till a little bit later in the day. So if you, don't plan around me, but I gotta look at it. I think I gotta be in Gallup like 4 or 5. So. I don't think anything. This Gallup thing was like last minute. It's like I'm opening for some concert series out there, and it's like it pays well, but I play for like 20 minutes. I'm just opening for some band. Yeah, it's not a great spot. But they have like a city concert series. It's pretty nice. They do a really good job with it. So it's like they've got a grant from people, some arts institute out of state, so they get some pretty good money for it. They have good sound. And it's like it's an easy gig. 2.5 hours away. It's like whatever. Oh yeah.
Okay, if we can start making our way back to our seats, please. Thank you, everyone. So glad to see everybody here this morning. I know everybody has choices of where they are on Sunday morning, and we are glad you've chosen to be here. And I would like to invite Shar up to do our opening prayer.
Let's all pray together. Take a deep breath. We know there is but one presence and one power, God the good. Wherever we are, God is within us and we are safe. We choose to let go of any fear, worry, doubts, or concerns and allow only good to unfold in our lives. The joy of God fills our hearts and minds right now. The light illumines our way, and we know we can do all things through the divine Spirit, which strengthens us. Together we affirm our peace and calm and are surrounded in love and light. We are grateful, we are blessed, and so it is.
Thank you, Shar. Well, it's wonderful to be here with you guys again. And let's start with gratitudes and prayer requests. Miss Susie.
I'm grateful for the rains. Yay, the rain has arrived.
Very much so.
I'm very grateful for the fact that this week I had my grandbabies. I haven't seen them in a month. And they invited the neighbor kids over to stay all night with Granny. So I had on Thursday night, I had 6 little babies sleeping in my living room. But I went to bed with the biggest smile on my face. It was so nice.
It's awesome.
I found in myself and in friends a tendency to say that people who we're disagreeing with on current issues are evil. And I just want to pray for us to find the good in everyone, realize sincerely held beliefs, and find a way to work together.
Thank you, Marcia.
One week ago today, in the newspaper, I hope you saw it, there was a picture of a little kid winning a major race in Flagstaff. Troy Montagnez, my great-grandson.
Oh. That's awesome.
Keep fast.
Somebody named Bruce had one.
In the last 3 weeks, I have had, actually I have to update it, 8 friends who have come down with COVID. And I have continued to test negative despite being really exposed closely to one of them. But it seems like all of them are healing up well. And one of them who had some memory issues and getting names wrong, including mine, is now recovering well. So I'm very grateful for all of that.
Sure that's not just an age thing, Bruce?
It could be.
Okay, Susie and then Keith.
I have a prayer request. An ex-roommate of mine, Jerry Schuin, he went to Africa and he got malaria and it lay dormant for 4 months. And he's right now in the hospital, ICU. So prayers for Jerry.
Definitely.
I had a memorial for my wife, Nancy, and I had 100 people show up.
Oh my.
And it was the last beautiful day before it started raining. So, I swear God was on our side. But anyway, it was wonderful to see so many friends. Some came from as far away as Arkansas to see us. So it was just a great gathering and a memorial for Nancy. I'm sure she was there.
Oh, yeah. Our hearts are with you, Keith. Okay, thank you. We are grateful for all the requests and good news we have heard. Again, we affirm that each condition, person, and situation is an expression of the divine. We claim love, wisdom, healing, and wholeness. We remember that no circumstance changes or separates us from our divinity. And so it is, and so let it be. I want to thank the members of the prayer team. Prayer team members, raise your hand. I know we have a few here. Thank you. Our prayer team members are available to pray with you after the service. You may also write your requests and place them in the prayer box over in that way. It's by the Serenity Room. They are held in prayer by our prayer team and then sent to Unity Village, where they will be held in prayer by Silent Unity for 30 additional days. Now, if you will affirm our Unity principle with me. Okay. Thoughts have creative power to determine events and attract experiences. So as we prepare for meditation, we have another song by Ryan.
You hear those pops? I have a bad tuner on my board that I need to replace. We'll live.
My heart is open and my mouth is closed. Pain and fear, no, I don't need those. Sunset, sunrise, seeing this world with my own two eyes, it's tough, but it is good. All is well. All is well. All is well with my soul. With my soul. With my soul. With my soul. I'm gonna wake up early, gonna eat good food. I'm gonna spread this love, that's what I'll do for you and for me. I will love my neighbor, I will lend a hand, I will make this earth a sacred land for me and for you. All is well. All is well. All is well with my soul. This last verse is often construed as somewhat preachy, but I want people to know that when I sing it, I'm not talking to others, I'm talking to myself, and I would invite you to reflect on the lyric for yourself and not for others. You better change right now like you know you should. You better change right now. Be some earthly good. Take a chance and fall in love with everyone. All is well. All is well. All is well with my soul. Let's sing that once more together, just our voices. All is well. All is well. All is well with my soul.
Good morning, dear ones. Reverend Penni Honey here. So let's settle in for meditation. If the lights have not already been turned off, I appreciate you doing that now. And we breathe and we rest into this time together. This time to connect in a deeper place for ourselves and collectively. So breathe. We allow this time to bless us, to bring us into alignment with our highest thoughts and the perfect expression of Spirit as us. We release all that has gone before this moment, and we open ourselves to the divine presence residing in us always, at all times. We allow ourselves to know the blessings, the gifts, and the joy of being, and the expression of our own divinity. It is in these quiet moments that we allow ourselves to step away from the doubts and the fears and the concerns. Walk with me, won't you, on this beautiful journey that we call life. And in these sacred moments, allowing ourselves to be present to our oneness. All is well. For there is no place that we may go in our minds, with our bodies, that the grace of Spirit does not enfold us always. and we are present to that now. For this knowing we are grateful. And it is from this place that we move into the beauty and the healing of silence. For this connection, we give great thanks, and we allow ourselves now to move back into this space, opening our minds and our hearts to the words, to the music, to the community. Thank you, Spirit. Thank you, Spirit. And we say thank you, Spirit. And so it is. And so we let it be. And now we enjoy yet another original by Ryan Viter. Thank you for being with us, Ryan. And I look forward to seeing all of you next Sunday, July 3rd. It's party time. Celebrating the journey of this community with me on my journey toward unity ordination. Big, big party, lots of celebration, and a potluck. Looking forward to it, my friends. Be blessed and stay well.
Why don't I have any guitar? That's very strange. Is it back in? Bring it up a bit. Oh, no, I know why. Don't do anything. Don't do anything else. The volume switch. All right, so when Bruce asked me to do this song, I felt a little ridiculous doing this song for a service. I know we're not technically a church here, but it feels like an odd thing to do. One, because it's one of the showy songs in my set, and I always try to create some sense of reverence when we're here at Unity. And this is not that. But I think I understand where Bruce is coming from on this one now. One of my favorite philosophers had something. He said, often people, when they read history, they view themselves as the victims, when in reality, they should view themselves as the perpetrator. And realize, what does that say about us and the darkness inside all of us? How that exercise in itself might be more life-giving for the world to think about the ways in which we are not always good. So this is a song called Bad Man. Sure it's in tune. Everywhere I'm going, everywhere I've been, I carry the burdens of all my sins. There's no forgiveness, no second chance, no point in running from who I am. I'm a bad man. I'm a bad man. I've lied and I've cheated, I've fought and I've stolen. No matter what I take, I only want more. Broken hearts and families, killed a man or two. There's no good reason for the evil life I choose. I'm a bad man. I'm a bad man. I've gone within, I've seen my own soul. I know I'm broken and could never be whole. The Lord can judge me, and so can you, but that won't change a damn thing I do. I'm a bad man. I'm a bad man. 20 years I've been running, thought I covered my tracks. Didn't know the sheriff, he was hard on my back. They finally got me and brought me in. In the morning they'll hang me. I guess this is the end. I'm a bad man. I'm a bad man. I'm a bad man.
Thank you, Ryan. Go to that next slide. I'll let you look at this for a minute. For Keith's benefit, I'll turn around and read this. So there's a cartoon up here, Pearls Before Swine. And there's a, I don't know if you know that the cartoon, but in this case there's a couple of the three characters there. There's Rat and Goat. Goat's kind of the reasonable person. Rat's kind of the way off the end character. So they're standing on a hill, and Rat is saying, I think the key to mental health is to forgive yourself for the things you've done wrong in your life. Then go out and do more wrong. And Goat says, I feel like you're exploiting something. And Rat, as he runs off, says, no time to talk, got more wrong to do. So my spouse says that I enjoy stirring the pot a bit too much. And laughed when I told her that the opportunity to poke a bit at another Unity tenant, which I've done before here. So here is some food for thought, but please take this with the good humor it was intended. It's kind of a hard act to follow that song, but I really wanted to make the point that there is something else inside of us, despite our denials, and we probably are better to recognize it than not. So next slide, please. If someone had told my teenage self that I might someday be addressing a spiritual community, I would have replied with derisive scorn. My parents are both atheists. My dad could best be described as an angry one, even though he would tell you that his whole approach was logical and scientific. He imagined himself to be Mr. Spock before Leonard Nimoy did. Next slide. Oh, yeah, go one more. I'm getting behind one here. So my siblings today remain atheists, and I abide in what I'll call a gentle skepticism about the higher power that works in our lives. I'm still pretty wedded to the good science over the other ways of understanding the workings of the world, but more about that later. some things in life led me to consider another way besides that angry atheism. In high school, in a senior humanities class, I remember reading a translation of Sophocles' tragedy Antigone. One of the choral verses, I don't know if you know how Greek tragedies work, but there's always some chorus that kind of moralizes as you go along. And one of the choral verses in there stuck with me, such that I still remember it here on the far side of 70. Where wisdom is, there happiness will crown a piety that nothing shall corrode. But high and mighty words and ways are flogged to humbleness, till age, beaten to its knees, at last is wise. Many times along my lifeline, heading away from my family home, meeting and marrying Bonnie, having kids that somehow thought that my vision for their lives wasn't what they were going to do, working a 12-step program, along with many other events in my life, and have been learning experiences, and this passage has come back to me as I've run into those over time.
Hey, Bruce, can you pull up just a little bit?
Yes, am I banging it? Or
It
is
might be a little hard for people to hear.
how we doing there?
Much
Oh,
better, yeah.
yes.
Especially for our Zoom
Yeah,
too.
there we go. I'm sorry if people out there can't hear me. Okay, I'm going to start over. Okay, thanks, Ryan. So finally, going through a family trauma, a psychologist told us, one of us, that our kid needed a spiritual home, and we listened. Even me. So that was 26 years ago, and here we still are. It was this community. And yeah, you probably heard some of this story if you've been here for a while. What I'm about to say is my own personal belief. It is unlikely that I will ever be in full concordance with some of Unity's teachings, including the one I'm going to talk about today, but nonetheless, here I am, regularly attending this service and getting weekly reminders about wisdom and what I aspire to with people I love and those I consider friends and kindred spirits. So just don't ask me to explain what spirit is in a scientific way, using science. Unity teaches that we are inherently good. What does science say? Yeah, just a minute here. To start off, a qualifier, science doesn't, indeed cannot, have anything to say about what are called unfalsifiable claims. For example, science can't prove that God does not exist. It can show with some level of confidence and even near certainty that some theories about our world are true. Everybody has one of these, or almost everybody, and it has a GPS in it. That GPS is based on Einstein's general theory of relativity. It came out in 1915. There have been hundreds of tests of this theory and has survived every one of them. And your GPS works because of something about time dilation that allows to account for, explained by general theory of relativity. Evolution of life by natural processes is another scientific theory that is practically certain, as the chemical and biological mechanisms for it are well known, and experiments proving these mechanisms have been replicated thousands of times. Genetic adaptations to a changed environment have been observed in real time with insects and other life forms. There was a moth in London that was a white moth, and used to hang out on white bark trees. And then when the Industrial Revolution hit there and all this coal dust was around and the trees started getting coated with black, guess what happened with the white moths? Yeah, things could eat them. So the ones that evolved a black coat got that. That was the first one I know about that was actually documented, but there's a lot of others since then, including with microorganisms. That's what resistance is. That's what's happening with COVID, in fact. Processes that can bridge the gap between inanimate matter in simple RNA, and I don't want to explain that word to you because it would not mean anything, based assemblages that can reproduce are now in print. This has been demonstrated. Debate about what processes actually led to life continue as the science progresses. So, claims that God must have created us just as we are now and that we aren't progeny of an earlier life form are illogical. Thank you, Mr. Spock. It doesn't mean that the ancient laws of creation are wrong. It does mean that as scientific discoveries progress, there is less need for miracles such as these tales to explain our existence. But I bet you aren't here for a science lesson, right? Okay, so what does this all have to do with inherent goodness? Well, I'm getting there. There are urges, both good and ill, that run through all of us. Mr. Badman. Well, maybe it's only me. Maybe it isn't you. But if you think that, what are you thinking about me and what I'm saying right this minute? Is it only good? All right, here's the case as I see it. I'm currently reading a book called The Blank Slate by Steven Pinker. In it, he argues that there is a strong genetic signal for our behaviors, both creative and destructive, and that they flow from our evolutionary history. The premise is that evolution didn't just happen to our muscles and skeleton and vital organs, but it actually also occurred in the wiring of our brains over time. Our brains are incredibly complex. They don't just contain memory for storage like a jump drive or something. There are parts that specialize in recognizing speech, recognizing vision, and actually if you lose one of those, one of the others will adapt to pick up that ability. That's been shown. People born blind, that part of their brain actually picks up on audio cues. That's why a lot of blind musicians are really good, because they can pick that up. Parts can be construct models of language. There's really 2 models of language throughout the world, and they can pick that up. As disparate as those languages seem, there's actually 2 models for that, and our brains can pick that up. There's parts for different kinds of memory and associations, and for discerning reality, along with a myriad of other systems and circuits. There's quite a bit of evidence for this, but I'll keep it simple with one example. There have been some studies done of children, like twins, identical and fraternal twins, and others separated at or near birth. And they've gone back and studied these folks, and this is controlled studies. And they show that looking at life choices and other outcomes for people, including schizophrenia, career choices, just a whole broad range of things, that genetics can explain somewhere between 20% and half of the choices and the occurrences for those folks in their life. It doesn't mean all of it, but quite a bit, actually. So this is not predeterminism. Oh, is this thing doing it again? This is not predeterminism, but we're simply machines made out of meat or something like that, which is, I think, the fear a lot of people have when they look at this. But rather that there are wired-in urges, sometimes much in conflict with each other, impelling us towards one belief or action over another choice, and that these are heritable to some degree. This is just as natural selection would predict about other attributes, only this applies to brain circuitry. I also like to think that there's some circuit in us that's a random number generator, so when something comes up, we don't really know what's going to happen, and nobody can really predict it. And I don't know if it was put there by evolution or spirit as a joke, but it's in there. So Pinker argues that with good research backing his writing, that normally developed humans have evolved circuitry in our brains that serve our specific interests. Sometimes these are clearly and immediately selfish, such as eating, breathing, reproducing, and avoiding harm to ourselves. Sometimes these are less direct, protecting our loved ones, our community, the natural resources we rely on to survive. We might even be willing to cede our lives so that others may live. While this latter set of behaviors could be seen as being altruistic, they could also be simply selfish, because by doing these, we also preserve our own gene survival. So, could be more complex. It might just be a play on the initial selfish thing that we do. While this makes scientific sense to me, and I accept it as likely, this isn't how it feels inside when I make a decision to look out for someone else, or even some other life form. Like last year when we first started opening up, I was sitting over there about where Kay is, and I looked down and I had a little green aphid walking around my hand. All the time while Penni was talking, I was watching this aphid, an aphid. I started to care for this aphid. When the service is over, I actually took it out and turned it loose out here. So it's just, whatever. Anyway, and so frankly, this usually feels pretty good, even if it's just the endorphins talking. But one other incident. Last week I was walking in church here, which I often do. I did this morning. And a fellow across University Avenue who was off his feet hailed me, asking me to call 911. Well, here we go again. So the first things that went through my head, some drunk is trying to play me so he can get some money from me. Excuse me just a minute. He's probably nuts, and I'm going to be late to church. Versus, he needs help I could provide. So I did cross the street. I engaged with him. I called 911, checked on his general physical state, and I kept him talking to be sure he remained alert until the EMTs arrived. And then I said goodbye to David. Yeah, I did find out who he was. And one of the EMTs wished me happy Father's Day as I made my way down here. So just what part of our collective circuitry has led to 911 being a thing? Next time it could be me, right? So now comes the hard part, and could you back up about 4 slides, please? Keep going. That one. Okay, this is the hard part. We are capable of doing hurtful things to each other. We steal resources from each other. We can be bad men. We get angry. We can and do kill each other for a myriad of reasons. This person's probably not about to kill anybody. However, he's Datoga. They have a very rudimentary civilization, and up until very recently, their path into manhood was killing someone else. That's what they were supposed to do. And they did. And it's not so much now. They now are in a organized country, and they aren't as tribal as they were, and they're finding other ways of life as civilization encroaches around them. They're keeping some parts of their culture, but they're not supposed to be killing people anymore. So he's probably stopped. But even normally, next slide, even normally developed people do this. Whole societies have been overtaken by this behavior, usually led by some despotic leader, but people have nonetheless gone along for the ride. It continues to happen as we sit here today. How could God or Spirit allow such things? Maybe that's not the place to look for the answer. Although it could well guide some choices we make towards solutions, science would indicate that these behaviors have a genetic advantage for our survival and prosperity, or at least they did in our past. One of the fables Pinker effectively puts to rest in the blank slate is that we were once noble savages living in harmony before civilization came along. Using actual scientific studies, rather than the fanciful thinking of a number of writers and social scientists who wish it were so, he cites quantitative data that shows between 20% and 40% of human males die of murder by war in these uncivilized societies. The ones that are still extant, like the Yanomamo, these guys. There's a few others still in Africa that are extant. So, this is usually done mostly by other men to secure resources from their neighbors, including food, territory, females, or preemptively to stop them from doing it to themselves first. Even though interviews with the men in these societies show that at least some wish it were some other way, they continue down this path of primitive survival. Yeah, go ahead and go to the next slide. So in the civilized world, the chance of dying by murder and hostilities combined is in the range of less than 1%, no matter what you hear in the paper. So that's the change. It's a 20 to 40-fold improvement in that. Something brought about by civilization. We no longer need these circuits for violence in our brains that we previously did. The genetics of our brain wiring has not kept up with the evolution of civilized societies. Our brains still send us these whispers from the shadowy past about what to do in stressful situations that no longer make sense. What can we do about this? Yeah, that's a good one to stop on. At the scale of our civilization, we must recognize these destructive urges still exist. Not just wish them away and make policy and laws accordingly. Deterrence has been shown to work. We probably still need those. But these aren't the only approaches that do work. We all have the mental faculties for increasing our knowledge and understanding of ourselves and each other. As a nearly global civilization, we have gradually built a more just peaceful society since about the 1600s. Several currents have moved the faculties of compassion and reason within us forward in science, economics, and governance, despite inevitable low tides, and there have been several. So liberal education is one way, and don't think I'm talking about critical race theory here on the left, or children who might feel uncomfortable with the truth on the right. I'm not. Here's what I'm talking about. The Dalai Lama writes in Beyond Religion, just as we take for granted the need to acquire proficiency in the basic academic subjects, I am hopeful that a time will come when we can take it for granted that children will learn, as part of their school curriculum, the indispensability of inner values such as love, compassion, justice, and forgiveness. We are inherently not only good as I see it, but what a state to aspire for. The Dalai Lama is always clear that this is not as easy as we often think it is. Discipline and lifelong learning are required to get better at it. It's not that I'm struggling to resist the urge to hurt someone on a regular basis, especially the guy that came across the crosswalk as I was crossing the street today. But the aggressive shadow whisperer is still there. What was I thinking about that guy? I like the message and regular reminder that we receive here, even if my logical brain keeps saying, yes, but. Our genetic code has yet to fully adapt to the world we live in today, and it will be a long time before it does. So until my genes evolve, whatever those whispers from the shadows, I will feed the better angels that say I am good. And Unity Flagstaff is a great place for that repast to take place. Namaste. And now, we are going to hear about shadow, spirit, faith, and our will from Ryan in another original.
That's such a lofty setup there. Bruce.
Yeah. Well, listen closely.
I'm scared of my own shadow, it won't let me sleep, even with the bright light of day. Still I pray to the heavens for my soul to keep safely guided on the narrow way. This I pray, this stone be moved, may this cup pass like I want it to. This ain't my will, it's not what I choose. I lost my faith before I wanted to. I made a deal with the Father to leave me be free to roam this earth forevermore. Still I pray my children be safe and warm, rightly guided on the narrow way. This I pray, this stone be moved, may this cup pass like I want it to. This ain't my will, it's not what I choose. I lost my faith before I wanted to. Spirit, leave me. Please don't lead me. Spirit, lead me. Please don't lead me to pray. This stone be moved, may this this cup pass like I wanted to. This ain't my will, it's not what I choose. If I find faith, it's not 'cause I wanted to. I'm scared of my own shadow, it won't let me sleep, even with the bright light of day. Still I pray to the heavens for my soul to keep safely guided on my weary way.
Thanks, Bruce and Ryan. Gave us something to think about. Okay, we will have our abundant sharing in just a little bit. If you would prepare your gifts while we do the announcements. We have 2 announcements today because everything you need to know is on the website, which is... Oh, can do better than that. So today, please know that we have our blood drive out in the front, and walk-ins are welcome. You have the chance to save a life today. And the next one, as Penni already mentioned, it is party time, July 3rd. Here at the center, during Sunday celebration, come celebrate Reverend Penni's Unity Ordination with a potluck provided by the potluck if you sign up to bring food. Turkey will be provided by the center, though. There will also be a volunteer rally to try to get people more involved, and lots of music from Matt Devlin, Ryan Biter, Wiley Beveridge, Trina and Andy, Steve Huffman, and Mr. Bruce Higgins. And I do believe I heard Katie's going to be here too. So that's awesome. So Penni says we should call it More Music and Less Talk. That sounds good. Chris Ash will also be here to honor and recognize Penni's accomplishment. So sign up with your soon-to-be famous potluck dish, and if you need a recipe, you can always download the Unity Cookbook from our website. So next Sunday, July 3rd, be here, please. So now let's get back to the other stuff, receiving the good. So if our greeters would come forward. And if you would say the abundance thought for the week with me. Is it up there? Abundance is a state of consciousness. We are there. Thank you. Okay, you can go. And as they're doing the abundance sharing, I claim a blessing song sheets. At least that's what it says on here.
Unless they have a audio thing there.
Yes.
I'll just vamp.
There you go. Thanks, Ryan. Thanks, Ryan. Together we affirm we are one with Source. We are abundant and generous. We are open to our good. Thank you, Spirit. So we should have our prayer for protection. The light of Spirit surrounds us. The love of Spirit enfolds us. The power of Spirit protects us. The presence of Spirit watches over us. Wherever we are, Spirit is, and all is well. So we're going to have a little reprise of this little light of mine.
Oh, I guess I was looking at the lyrics in the back screen. Now they're not there anymore. All right, ready?
This little light of mine, I'm gonna let it shine. This little light of mine, I'm gonna let it shine. This little light of mine, I'm gonna let it shine, let it shine, let it shine, let it shine. Oh. I thought there was more.
Thanks, everyone. Have a wonderful week.